Welcome into the Ohio State Football Report. My name is Stone Shields, filling in for Tom Downey. Filled in a couple of times here at the channel. Tom right now is down the hall doing a great job covering NFL free agency right now. It's been a second since we've got a video out here on the channel, so I wanted to step up and get one out for you guys. Coming up on today's show, got a pretty good show in line for you guys here this afternoon. Let's talk Will Howard here on today's edition of the Ohio State Football Report. Obviously, the NFL Draft is approaching rapidly, and there's been a lot of conversation around Will Howard at that quarterback spot, where he could potentially end up going in the NFL Draft here in 2025. So we'll spend some time talking about Will Howard. Also, Matt Miller of ESPN has released his way too early look at top prospects at each position for the 2026 NFL Draft. So there's going to be 3 Ohio State Buckeyes that we are going to be talking about here on today's show that Matt Miller mentioned in his article. And before we get going, just a little heads up, I am doing a little solo producing here on today's show. So if you see me look down, whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's show. Also, trying to get to 10,000 subscribers here on the Ohio State Football Report. I believe we're around a little less than 200 subs away from making that happen. We've gotten over 200 subs on a video before in the past. Let's get it right here on this video. Help us out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/GoBucks. We will be here all offseason long covering the Ohio State Buckeyes football team. All right, let's start here with Will Howard. Some draft rumors. Will Howard rumors really have been circulating as kind of the race for quarterback 3 in the NFL Draft here in 2025 is really completely up in the air. I'm not saying necessarily I believe that Will Howard should be that quarterback 3, but I definitely think he deserves some consideration. Right now, probably the top favorite to be that quarterback 3 is Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. And then besides him, you're talking about guys like Quinn Ewers out of Texas. You're talking about Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, Jalen Milroe out of Alabama, Tyler Shuck out of Louisville, and I think Will Howard certainly fits into that group as well. I want to take a look here what Daniel Jeremiah, who's the lead NFL draft analyst for NFL Network, had to say in regards to Will Howard. He said, if you're looking for a place for Will Howard, it's pretty easy dots to connect. If the Raiders aren't super active in addressing the veteran side of things, and they just get a stopgap quarterback, who knows Will Howard better than Chip Kelly? So why would that not be an opportunity for him somewhere one day to land with a coach that he is very familiar with? Now, I do want to make note, obviously, Jeremiah made these comments before Geno Smith was going over to the Las Vegas Raiders in a trade. But regardless, I think Jeremiah brings up some good points. And I think Will Howard really has kind of been getting slept on a little bit when it comes to that quarterback position here in the 2025 NFL Draft. He's done a lot of good things really at Kansas State before transferring here to Ohio State, and he won a lot of big games. I'm always looking at that when I'm looking to draft a quarterback. Have you played in big games, and were you able to win? Now, I understand he had an absolutely loaded roster all the way around him, but I thought he played his best football during the college football playoffs. You know, obviously coming off of that Michigan game, you know, the program was kind of in shambles, but he did a nice job of keeping everybody on course as the leader and sitting there saying, look, we're the most talented team to get into this playoff. There's no reason why we can't win this thing. Ohio State pretty much dominated the college football playoffs, led by that guy right there, Will Howard. So in a class where I don't really think there's really any great quarterbacks whatsoever, I do think Will Howard should deserve a lot of consideration for that quarterback 3 spot. And I think that Vegas situation there with Chip Kelly, how great would that be, right? Geno Smith comes in for a couple of years. You let Will Howard sit after drafting him, certainly on day 2, day 3, and you're able to have him develop behind Geno Smith, and then if Chip Kelly's still there, you kind of have a reunion between starting quarterback and offensive coordinators. Just wanted to bring that up in regards to Will Howard. Leads us to the pinned comment of today's video. Rank Will Howard for us among quarterbacks in the 2025 class. Be honest with us in the comment section of today's show. If you got him at number 3, let me know in the comments. Shoot, if you got him at number 1, let us know in the comment section right now. Rank Will Howard among quarterbacks in the 2025 class, especially if that ad comes here on YouTube. All right, as I mentioned at the top of the show, also going to be talking about some early 2026 draft prospects for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Obviously, every single year, Ohio State is going to have several guys that are going to the NFL draft and that get picked very high in the process as well. So we're going to be breaking some of those guys down here on today's show. As I mentioned, Matt Miller of ESPN kind of put out an article, and there were 3 Buckeyes that happened to show up on his list. Here's first up, Caleb Downs. Really goes without saying, I absolutely love Caleb Downs. I'll just go out there and say it. He is my favorite player in the country. He was as a freshman at Alabama, and that certainly didn't change when he went to Ohio State as well. Here is what Matt Miller had to say in regards to Caleb Downs at that safety position. He said, Downs could be the best returning player at any position entering the 2025 season. He was a unanimous All-America selection this past season after transferring from Alabama, picking off 1 pass while adding 61 tackles. He is an eraser in coverage and has the size to eliminate receivers and tight ends over the middle. Do want to make note that he was able to get a second interception in the college football playoffs as well, really kind of icing things for the Buckeyes. But Caleb Downs is a tremendous player. You really can't say enough good things about Caleb Downs, right? He's a guy that plays like an NFL veteran, and he was a sophomore in college this past year, which really is remarkable that he's able to, play with that kind of maturity out there on the football field. I completely believe that if Caleb Downs was eligible to go to the NFL after, this year winning the national title, he would be a lock to go in the first round. This guy's going to be an NFL star one day. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Ohio State is very, very lucky to have him coming back next year to really continue to help boost their defense, and he's going to be their leader on defense along with Sonny Styles, of course, this next year in the 2025 campaign for Ryan Day. And if you're him and his staff, you can't have a better guy to lead your defense. Absolutely love Caleb Downs. Totally get why Matt Miller was writing about him, and I expect him to go very, very early in the 2026 draft. 2 more guys we will discuss here on today's show, but do want to remind you guys that Ohio State National Championship gear is still on sale over at Fanatics. Really encourage you guys to get over to Fanatics and check out some of this gear. They've got all kinds of stuff, shirts, hoodies, pullovers, quarter zips, hats, you name it. They've got it. Obviously, it's been a couple of months since Ohio State has won the national title, but that doesn't mean we can't continue the celebration with our friends over at Fanatics. Go over there, get you some swag, some Buckeye swag, some national title Buckeye swag. Obviously, it's been a decade since we've been able to celebrate this, so make sure you guys get some gear over at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/OSU Champs. Link will be in the comments and the description of today's show. Second guy up here, Ethan Onianwa. You might be thinking, who is that? Well, that's who Ohio State landed in the transfer portal, along with a couple other guys that they were able to land as well. Onianwa's really carved himself out a nice collegiate career at Rice. Opts not to go to the NFL draft and instead transfer to a big-time program. He's coming to Ohio State, and you bet your bottom dollar he's going to be a starter for you along your offensive line. Let's take a look at what Matt Miller had to say in regards to Ethan Onianwa. Onianwa had a stellar 3-year run at Rice before transferring to Ohio State, highlighted by the 2024 season in which he didn't allow a sack and only committed 2 penalties. Transitioning to the Big Ten will be a challenge for the 6'6", 345-pound Onianwa, but scouts are giddy about his potential. He would have been a likely day 2 pick in the 2025 draft, but could improve that position with the Buckeyes. And kind of alluding to what Matt Miller was talking about, take a look at this season here. PFF did dock him for 1 sack. Depends kind of where you look at that. But regardless, it was phenomenal for Onianwa at Rice, as Miller mentioned as well. He had the ability to go to the NFL draft if he wanted to, but said, you know what, NIL era, I can go to Ohio State. I can get a couple extra bucks, play under a coach like Ryan Day with a great staff, great players around me, and see if this can't boost my stock for 2026. Really was not a highly rated recruit whatsoever, only a 3-star coming out of high school. But he's a guy that has just continued to get better, continued to get in better shape, continued to gain size, get those reps under his belt, and has really carved himself out a nice collegiate career at Rice. Now he's got a chance to do it at a big-time program like Ohio State, and we'll see what kind of impact he can make in 2025 for the Buckeyes. Onianwa, of course, was a transfer guy that Ohio State was able to land in the portal this most recent cycle. Who's your favorite transfer portal guy that Ohio State landed this previous cycle? Let me know in the comments section of today's video. Several guys that you can pick from, but I want to know your favorite right now in the comments. Last guy that we will talk about here, also a transfer portal guy in Max Klare. Now, I do want to make note, Miller called him a sleeper, so he didn't have him necessarily as one of his top prospects, but he did list him as a sleeper for Ohio State. He's actually only going to be a junior, only spent 2 years at Purdue. Really did a nice job for the Boilermakers. He is a native of Cincinnati, so he gets to come back to his home state here of Ohio. Played his high school football at St. X, which is just down the street here from our Chat Sports offices here in Cincinnati. And I think that Ohio State really has high hopes for what Klare is going to be able to do at that tight end spot. We've seen Ohio State really develop some good tight ends. I thought G. Scott Jr. was one of the most underrated parts of this football team this past year that really allowed them to go on the run in which they did. Didn't get a ton of credit. He did a nice job. Also, you think back to guys like Jeremy Ruckert as well. Also put in some good work at Ohio State. Several tight ends have come in and really done some good things for Ohio State at that position. Klare last year certainly was his best year in college. He did get hurt in 2023, so I do want to correct myself. I do believe he technically will be a junior, but this will be his 4th year of collegiate football. And last year certainly was his breakout year, gives him the opportunity to come back to his home state of Ohio, hopefully make an impact for the Buckeyes. And Matt Miller of ESPN really thinks he has an opportunity to really do some good things. Considering who Ohio State has out there as receivers, can't dedicate a lot of guys defensively to Max Klare, so he's going to find himself in some favorable situations. We'll see if he can take advantage and boost his stock for 2026. That'll do it for this edition of the Ohio State Football Report. Appreciate you guys bearing with me here as I was doing a little solo producing there. And it was good to be back here at the Ohio State Football Report. If you made it to the end of our video, we appreciate you guys. Hit that thumbs up icon for me right now.